Max Verstappen's future with Mercedes might have been finally figured out after recent reports talked about what Toto Wolff wants for his 2026 team. With Mercedes seeming to close the door on the Dutch driver and wanting to keep Antonelli and Russell, will this be the smartest choice for the new rule changes? And if so, where does that leave Verstappen with his Red Bull team doing so poorly? The F1 news has been filled with reports from Toto, Wolff, Russell, and Verstappen about the future of the four-time world champion. There were strong hints that he could have ended up driving for Mercedes, replacing Russell, or letting Antonelli stay at Alpine for a few years. However, that doesn't seem to be what Toto Wolff wants. The Austrian boss has now promised to keep Russell and Antonelli as his driver pair starting in 2026, showing that nothing will likely change anytime soon. When talking about it more, Wolff said, "We want to keep going with George and Kimi. That's what we want most. We're still talking about it. Everyone knows what's happening. I don't think there will be any big surprises. It's not just about the team choosing. The drivers also need to know where they fit in." However, there have been some things that Wolff did that make the F1 news people and fans wonder what's going on. He had the perfect chance to give the driver a longer contract since they've been helping his career since he started in F1. That didn't happen, and Wolff's words are just saying something we've heard many times before. He says he wants Kimi and George, but Russell doesn't have a contract, and George knows that many people have been asking questions about his time with Mercedes. Even if Wolff is telling the truth, he made his driver look like nobody wants him on the racing grid. If you trust your engine and car parts so much for 2026 and beyond, then Russell has done enough to prove he could win the championship with the right tools. Like this, you're letting people guess what's really happening, and you're basically telling everyone that the car might not be as good as you hoped for. So, you need a four-time world champion to win titles with it. On top of that, you'd be making the Mercedes shareholders look bad too. Ola Klenius, the CEO of the German team, said clearly that Wolff has permission to talk deals with Verstappen. But with this latest statement, it seems like the company bosses just don't want big changes. They've helped both Russell and Antonelli get to where they are right now. So if they were to replace them with Verstappen, who's basically someone from outside, even though he's so great, it would make the team look bad at handling this kind of business. And it seems like Mercedes finally knows what they want to do with their driver lineup. Wolff also said he didn't meet with Verstappen in Sardinia, saying that those pictures going around online about their planes landing at the same time and day were just a coincidence. Yes, they were in Sardinia at the same time, but a meeting didn't happen. They just vacationed in the same area. And with this, Wolff closed the door even more on a possible move for Max. However, a very interesting report came from Autosport that talked about something that would definitely shock the entire Formula One world. Ola Klenius, the CEO of Mercedes, is believed to be going behind Wolff's back trying to convince Verstappen to join the team, believing that a chance like this can't be missed if it's right in front of their eyes. Of course, his word is the one that needs to be listened to as the final decision. But there are company bosses who also need to agree as well. So, if Ola wants this move to happen, he'd have to convince a few very important people at Mercedes that it's the right thing to do. But for this, Russell and Mercedes will have to sit down and see what choices they have. It's reported that the British driver wants a 3-year contract extension, while Mercedes wants to go with the well-known 1-year deal, a similar approach that they've done with Lewis Hamilton as well. The thing is that they have drivers they could give the seat to because everyone believes the new rules will help Mercedes. But whether or not that would actually happen, only time will tell. The whole Horner story is also giving a new feeling to this situation. The British man has been fired by Red Bull in what seems to be a move to try and impress Verstappen or convince him to stay, because they're desperate about their technical problems under the leadership of Watch and Balbo. There have even been offers about a possible move from Red Bull that would let Max have his name on either Red Bull or Racing Bulls, which would basically give Max full control of his future, and the other way around. This gives a completely new way of looking at how the sport will look when the new rules start. For starters, we have a 4-time world champion who will very likely stay with Red Bull, and see what their engine can do. I don't really think he'd be happily surprised by this part of the Austrian team's work. But on the other hand, I don't think much can be done either. It's already pretty well developed, and if it fails, it fails. You just have to deal with it and look for what's best. In your racing career, we do know what Verstappen thinks about competing in Formula One for a long time. As long as things are good and the team is getting better, he'll be part of it well into his 30s. So, a lot of this would depend on Red Bull's engine and might show that the team is the only one that could make Max retire early or leave their group. Either way, it's something we'd have to wait for the new rules and see how it develops. But right now, I don't really think Max Verstappen is going to be the happiest person in the world knowing that one door has been closed for him, at least partly. Wolff's statement wasn't final. He said that this is the direction he wants to go, but he didn't promise that it will be 100% certain. Changes can always happen, especially if certain teams don't do well and don't meet expectations from their engines. That is why 2026 is going to be very important for both Max and Red Bull. If the Austrian team gives Max a great engine, despite all the negative talk going around about this skill, then we'll have a different topic to talk about completely. But what's next for Max? If he doesn't stay at Red Bull, then there's only one more team he could join with the new rules, and that's Aston Martin. The Silverstone-based team has everything needed to compete at the front. Honda's engines, Newey's skills as their technical director, and the knowledge of Cowell and Cardile. A big part of these people were responsible for Red Bull's recent success. So, I think now that the Mercedes door has been closed more, Max might be smart to think about a possible move to Aston Martin instead. However, that won't happen in 2026. The Silverstone-based team promised to keep Stroll and Fernando Alonso for the upcoming season, but at the end of the day, we know that means basically nothing. If Max were to show any interest in joining the team, Alonso would be sent to early retirement and promoted to a team ambassador, while Verstappen would have the special chance of competing at the front again with the Mercedes and McLarens and possibly the Ferraris. All of this is giving us a lot to think about, but at the end of the day, what matters the most is where does Max Verstappen want to drive. If he's part of Red Bull, then it's a clear sign that being loyal is everything to him. The contract runs until 2028, and I can clearly see him wondering whether or not 2027 is going to be a year when he changes teams. In the first season of the new rules, Red Bull will probably have the biggest job they could have been given, building competitive engines and staying at the front to give Verstappen a car that can win championships. And from this point of view, they seem to be failing, and the partnership with Ford might not bring nearly as much helpful teamwork as they first hoped. So what is there left to be done? I don't really think that Red Bull can just sit around doing nothing. They've brought Lauren Mekies as their team principal, and both Max and Yuki have high hopes that the team will finally move in a new, better direction compared to where they were going with him. So with all of this in mind, what do you think will happen with Red Bull and Max Verstappen's future beyond 2026? And more importantly, do you believe that there's any chance that the four-time world champion is going to look for another team as his new home? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.